In an ideal world, we would all base our next bike purchase decision on nothing but passion alone. We'd walk into our nearest dealer, we'd see a Panigale V4 or an R1M or some amazing trick BMW, bosh, take that bike and take it home. Unfortunately, that's just not the way it is. Sometimes we have to think about the dreaded phrase, value for money. So when it comes to value for money, every single bike that Yamaha has plunked that little 850 triple in, so MT-09, XSR 900 and the old Tracer 900, has given both them and us massive value for money. So how successful was the original Tracer 900 when it was launched back in 2015? Massively. In the sports touring sector, Tracer 900 has equated to about 50% of all of the sport touring sales that Yamaha have aimed for. So that includes FJR 1300 and Tracer 700 as well. It's time to add another model to the Tracer range. We're here to ride the Tracer 900 GT. Now you might be wondering why there's a sports touring bike sat on the centre stand at a racetrack. Here we're at Silverstone Stowe Circuit. We bought this bike to a racetrack because racetrack. So we haven't just been riding it at a racetrack, we've also been all the way out to Spain and had a ride in Granada. So what exactly is that big blue bike back there? Well, Tracer 900 GT is the premium version of the Tracer 900. So there are two bikes in the Tracer 900 range. GT offers absolutely everything that you think you can accessorize your way to with the standard bike. So I'm saying for the extra money that you spend, and we'll come to price later on, you get hard luggage, you get heated grips, you get cruise control, you get fully adjustable suspension at the front and adjustable suspension at the rear, you get a TFT dash, you get a quick shifter, all as standard and based on feedback that Yamaha took from existing Tracer 900 owners, exactly the kind of accessories that Tracer owners are looking to add to their bikes. Some of the other changes you may or may not notice when you first look at this bike. The screen now has that one-touch adjustability that multistradas have. If you haven't ever ridden a multistrada, this is me adjusting the screen with one hand. If you're over 6 foot tall, you may still struggle for protection behind this screen. They've completely re-profiled the side edges of it, they've changed the shape, they've made it easier to adjust. Whether or not it offers you any protection, only a test ride will tell. A few other smaller changes that you may or may not spot, those pillion pegs are actually 33mm lower, so your pillion just gets a little bit more leg room to stretch out when they're sat behind you. And also the rider's seat has also gone up by 5mm. There's still 15mm of adjustment, but the seat itself is slightly taller, they've thickened up the padding and they've changed the material that the whole seat is covered in. At 115 horsepower and 87 Nm of torque, the motor remains largely unchanged across the whole MT, XSR, Tracer 9 and Tracer 900 GT series. That's no bad thing. The motor in this bike really is an absolute gem. What you will find on both GT and standard Tracer models is a two-stage traction control system. So you can have 3 modes of traction. You can turn the whole thing off. You can have level 1 or level 2. There are also 3 riding modes to choose from, A, B and standard. Much like any of the other MT series bikes that I've ridden, I just left my bike in standard, knowing that that was the one that suits me. The wheelbase on this bike is 1.5 meters. The swinging arm has been extended by 60mm. I think what Yamaha are aiming to do there is increase the stability. And I know that there are a few owners of Tracer 900 out there who had issues with kind of high-speed head shake and a little bit of steering weave. The way Yamaha have worked around that is by narrowing the bars slightly and raising the whole thing up. Like we said, that seat height has gone up a tiny bit, swing arm's a little bit longer. I think what they're trying to do is eliminate that head shake feeling. The mirrors are now 30mm longer. The stalks, Yamaha saw fit to just stretch them out so that you can see a little bit more than your elbows and your missus' knees when you're riding this bike. So one final point before we got on the bikes and went for a ride was spending a little bit more time taking in the level of detail and quality finish that this bike has. That value for money opener that I used at the start of this piece is incredibly relevant here. It's a beautiful looking bike if you're into sports touring bikes, but the level of finish just seems to have gone up a notch at Yamaha. So why did we go to Granada? Well, it has everything that a bike like this is designed for. Big fast motorways and dual carriageways, beautiful mountain passes, fast and slow A and B roads. It's pretty much got the lot for a bike like this. It's hard not to just talk about the motor on this bike. It's so tractable. In one section of the road ride that we did, I think I left it in second gear for maybe I don't know, 10 or 15 kilometers. I was just trying to find the rev limiter. It was somewhere up around 11,200 revs, I think. Speedo was showing 150 k's an hour. This is also a gear that you can drop all the way down to walking speed around town. It's such a tractable, torquey and then powerful motor that's really, really easy to use and usable all the way through that rev range. I didn't really notice that increased seat height, but it's certainly a more comfortable place to be compared to the old bike. Whoever made the decision to add a quick shifter to a touring bike deserves a day off. It's an inspired move. You'd think a bike like this doesn't need a quick shifter, but I'm saying anything that can make your job easier when you're on a bike, particularly when you've got days and days or even just one full day in the saddle ahead of you, is a good thing. That quick shifter works perfectly. It's seamless, very easy to use, dials out all of that notchiness and jerkiness that you get, which will also make things a more comfortable place for your pillion. Now, we didn't have pillions, but what we did have was quite a spirited ride, and it was only really when we turned the wick up and started to push on, and I hate the phrase push on, but we did start to push on. I noticed that the bike started to move around a little bit on its suspension. You've got to remember what it is and what it's designed to do. It's a sports touring bike. It's not a track day bike. It's not an R6 or an R1. Of course, if you push and push and push, eventually you're going to find the limits. Now, part of what I've been trying to think about how to convey how this bike feels to you when you're riding it very fast is that just slightly loose feeling. When you're changing direction, it takes a little bit longer for the bike to settle on itself because it's got longer legs. It's a sport touring bike. The easiest way for me to get this message across to you is simply by saying that I looked up how fast a giraffe can run. Did you know a giraffe can run at 32 miles an hour? Did you know that a rabbit can run at 29 miles an hour? So a giraffe, as gangly as it looks and everything's flopping around all over the place, is faster than a rabbit. It's a little bit tenuous. What I'm saying is, if you just put up with what this bike is doing, it's just moving around on itself. It's the nature of long-legged bikes like this. It's not that it doesn't have the performance and it can't do what you want it to, it just does it in a different way to other bikes that you may have ridden. So in an ideal world, I would have just slightly wound up the preload at the rear and maybe increase the compression damping at the front. It's adjustable, you can do that. Remember that you can do that. Don't just buy this bike and then moan about the suspension. Get the clickers out, make some changes, make this bike suit you. I didn't get a chance to do it because we had a packed and busy day out in Spain and the conditions were changing all of the time. Lots of rain, lots of dry roads, little bits of everything. So I just left it completely as it came, didn't really have any problem with it at all. The small changes that they've made, particularly to this GT model, they make it feel like a quality piece of kit. The best way to describe it would be, I don't know, value for money. That phrase, there it is again. Talking of value for money, how much do they cost? Well, the standard Tracer 900 is £9,249 and this 900 GT model is £10,649. You may think that's a lot of money, but jump online and compare the spec. Everything that we spoke about that this bike comes with as standard. Compare to Kawasaki Versys, BMW GS, Ducati Multistrada. Have a look at exactly what you're getting for your money across all of the bikes in this sector, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about when I say this bike provides huge value for money. Yamaha have worked incredibly hard to make this bike a more engaging and exciting ride for you when you're on your own, and they've also worked hard to make it a better place for you and your pillion when it comes to touring and big mile trips. Fair play to them. I spent a lot of time asking myself if I could see me riding a bike like this. In that shade of R1 blue, I'm going to say, yeah, I probably could. If I didn't know that the MT10 came with a touring pack, I'd say this is the best sports touring package that you can buy at the minute from Yamaha. So what's it missing? For me, it's just one thing. MT10 SP, R1M, they both have electronically adjustable suspension, something that would work and cross over just as well on track as it would with something like sports touring, particularly when you load your bike up with pillion and pillion luggage and fill your panniers and do all that stuff. If your suspension was electronically adjusting immediately the second that you get on it, I think you might have the perfect sports touring bike. If we think our way back to last year, we tested the existing Tracer 900 back-to-back against the Ducati Multistrada 950. Now, our test that day was all about how the Ducati was worth the extra expense because it made us as riders feel like we were riding something that was a little bit more premium. The quality was a little bit higher than the Tracer 900. This new Tracer 900 GT, I think, would easily be able to go head-to-head with the Multistrada 950, and in my opinion, it's a better place to put your money.